Hello, everyone. I'm Minister James Moss, and we're back here again with continuing education. We're in the book of Luke, all right, the Gospel according to Luke. And this one, we're in chapter 6, verses 17 through 26. And this one is entitled, Jesus Gives the Beatitudes. Okay, so let's get into our journey, right? Okay. All right. This section is similar to the Sermon on the Mount. It has been widely debated whether the two are the same sermon or different ones. It is very likely that Jesus taught the same truths twice, if not more. All right. So let us jump into Mark and see what he has to say about the Beatitudes. All right, starting at verse 17. And he came down with them and stood in the plain in the company of his disciples, and a great multitude of people out of all Judea and Jerusalem, and from the sea coast of Tyre and Sidon, which came to hear him and to be healed of their diseases. And they that were vexed with unclean spirits, and they that were healed. And they were healed. And the whole multitude sought to touch him, for there went virtue out of him, and healed them all. And he lifted up his eyes on his disciples and said, Blessed be ye poor, for yours is the kingdom of God. Blessed are ye that hunger now, for ye shall be filled. Blessed are ye that weep now, for ye shall laugh. Blessed are ye when men shall hate you, and when they shall separate you from their company, and shall reproach you, and cast out your name as evil for the Son of Man's sake. Rejoice in that day, and leap for joy, for behold, your reward is great in heaven. For in the like manner did their fathers unto the prophets. But woe unto you that are rich, for ye have received your consolation. Woe unto you that are full, for ye shall hunger. Woe unto you that laugh now, for ye shall mourn and weep. Woe unto you when all men shall speak well of you, for so did their fathers to the false prophets. All right. So, here we go. Verses 17 through 19, Jesus' popularity had continued to grow, for there is not only many of his followers, but also crowds. People had come from Judea, Jerusalem, and the seacoast of Tyre and Sidon. Word of Jesus' authoritative teaching and healing power had spread. So many had come long distances to hear him, to be healed, and to have Jesus cast out evil spirits. No one went away disappointed. They were all cured. Verse 20, most likely, Jesus gave these teachings primarily to the disciples with the crowds listening in. Jesus' newly chosen disciples, the 12 men who would be his closest associates, might have become tempted to feel proud and important. After all, Jesus' popularity continued to grow, as seen in the multitude with him at that moment. The disciples, riding on the wave of Jesus' popularity, needed to first understand the priorities of God's kingdom. In addition, many of these disciples were confused about what exactly Jesus was going to do. The Gospels present a group of men who while believing, never quite understood Jesus' coming death and the resurrection until they witnessed it for themselves. So Jesus told them here, in no uncertain terms, that they should not expect fame and fortune in this world, for that is not what Jesus came to bring. They would be blessed. They would indeed be blessed, but by different kingdom standards. These verses are called the Beatitudes, from the Latin word meaning blessing. They describe what it means to be Christ's followers. They are standards of conduct. They contrast kingdom values with worldly values, showing what Christ's followers can expect from the world and what God will give them. They contrast fake piety with true humility. They show how Old Testament expectations are fulfilled in God's kingdom. The word blessed means more than happiness. It means favored and approved by God. The first blessing is reserved for you who are poor. These are the people who have nothing but God on whom to depend. They realize that they have nothing of their own to give to God, and therefore must depend on his mercy. Jesus says the kingdom of God is given to you. Notice that he does not say I will, notice that he didn't say will be given to you, but is given to you. Accepting Jesus into one's heart brings that person into the kingdom, even as he or she lives on earth. Jesus was not exalting poverty. Instead, he was clarifying that these are the results of discipleship and that the disciples would ultimately be blessed because they could count on Jesus, the Son of Man. In these Beatitudes, Jesus was not cursing all that is part of life, such as laughter, fun, happiness, money, food. But if these become the focus of life without regard to God, then a person cannot be blessed by God. Verse 21, the hunger about which Jesus spoke is a hunger based on poverty because of one's lot in life or for taking a stand with Christ. The word hungry pictures an intense longing that needs to be satisfied. People who do not get food will eventually die of hunger. Jesus' promise to those with this kind of hunger is, you will be satisfied. Jesus will completely satisfy those with spiritual hunger. Jesus promises that those who weep now will laugh with joy. Scholars differ on the exact nature of this weeping. Jesus may have been referring to the nation of Israel weeping for its sins, and others interpret this more personally, explaining that it refers to those who weep for their own sins or even for personal grief or oppression. Still, other scholars see in the word weeping a picture of God's people who suffer because of their faith in him. Most likely, it refers to people who are sensitive to the world's sin and resultant suffering. While their pain is real, they can know the end of the story and laugh. Verses 22 and 23. To be surrounded by by hateful people would hardly make a person feel like the object of blessing. But kingdom values are the opposite of this world's values. Jesus explained to his disciples that not only would they, like anyone else, experience poverty and sorrow in this life, but they would also be actively persecuted. They would be hated, excluded, mocked, and cursed. The one common factor would be that this would occur because they believed in Jesus. Surely, this must have sounded strange to the disciples on the mountainside, surrounded by literally a multitude of people desiring to get close to Jesus. Yet Jesus saw what the future held, and he warned them accordingly. Jesus also comforted them by saying that when they faced persecution, they were to rejoice. No matter what those who hate Jesus attempt to do to his followers on earth, a great reward awaits them in heaven. Jesus placed his disciples in a long line of God's followers who lived righteously and spoke truthfully, only to suffer for it. The Jews held the ancient prophets of God in high esteem. To be placed among them was a great honor. Jesus explained that to live and speak for God in the face of unjust persecution, as did the ancient prophets, would bring great reward in heaven. Verse 24. The next 3 verses contain sorrows that give the flip side of the blessings in the previous verses. While most in the world see riches as desirable and as a sign of God's blessing, Jesus says the opposite. He pronounces sorrows on those who are rich. Jesus probably addressed these comments to his audience at large. Jesus does not decree riches themselves, but their effect on people. Riches cause people to feel self-sufficient and to feel that they have found the happiness for which they were seeking. Those who choose present comfort over God's way have their only happiness now. Those who try to find fulfillment through wealth will find that wealth is the only reward they will ever get, and that it does not last. Verse 25. The words satisfied and prosperous refer to those who have everything that this world offers. They lack nothing. Their material possessions and financial security cause them to think that they have no need for God. One day, however, they will face a time of awful hunger. This may not occur in this life, but they will find that for eternity, when it really happens, and it really matters, they will be the ones who suffer the most. The gospel later records a parable of a rich man and a poor man that illustrates this point. In much the same way, those who laugh carelessly will one day face mourning and sorrow that will last for eternity. Jesus was not against laughter. Indeed, laughter is one of the greatest gifts God has given to his people. Jesus was pointing at the same attitude carried by those who are rich and self-satisfied in this life and give superficial laughter at any mention of God or eternity. They will find that they were wrong, and they will mourn and weep forever. Verse 26, Jesus points out a serious problem facing those who are praised by the crowds. While being spoken well of is certainly a worthy goal, rarely can a person be spoken well of by everyone and have everyone completely agree with him or her on every topic. One cannot be pleasing to everyone in that way without sacrificing some principle here or there. Such a person must waffle in all areas of life so everyone will be like him or her, or so that everyone will like him or her. One group in the Old Testament was praised by everyone, from the king to the common people. They were the false prophets. The ancestors of these Israelites listening to Jesus had spoken well of the false prophets. They were praised by kings and crowds because their predictions, personal prosperity and victory in war, were exactly what the people wanted to hear. Unfortunately, their words were shown to be lies, as the nations of Israel and later Judah lost their freedom and their homeland when they were taken into captivity. Popularity is no guarantee of a person's truthfulness. Human flattery does not bring God's approval. Sadness lies ahead for those who chase after the crowd's praise rather than God's truth. All right. And so that does it for Jesus Gives the Beatitudes according to Luke. Why would I always say Mark? I guess because Mark is just kind of sticking out there for some reason. But no, the gospel according to Luke and the way that he interpreted the Beatitudes. A very profound way, because we see here that some of those, a great portion of those Beatitudes was actually directed toward his disciples in the form of a prophecy to them. Look, these are some of the things you can expect. And depending on your attitude and the way you handle it, it's going to really make a difference. So with that being said, that concludes this particular video. Again, go back, reread the scriptures, replay the commentary. I ask God to give you an understanding, to help you open your mind up to what his spirit is having to say to you. Open your heart up to what his spirit has to say to you. Listen to it. Let it give you revelation. Ask him for application in your life. And above all things, continue to keep studying. God bless you all.